right, we are back for another edition of the Exit 52 podcast, a very special edition here on this Tuesday night, Two-Man Tuesdays. My name is Jake Luke, and I'm joined by my guy, 2 out of 3, RDT, about to be living up to your name again very soon here in a couple of days. How are we, pal?
We're good. I'm again, this is like a weird week. There was an article, I forget who wrote it, but they were saying that MLB, again, shocker that MLB doesn't do something right. Like them opening up the season. If don't call last week opening day. If you do that, I dislike you a lot.
Opening night.
They're opening up on the Sweet 16 night. Like, what are you doing? Why? Or like the day, I guess. It just makes no sense. But again, it's kind of it's a fun week here. It's been a fun week in Baltimore sports with, the Terps, the men's and ladies team, both winning very dramatic games, and now we get the Orioles on top of it, and it's everything is right again in Baltimore with baseball being back and the media going to Camden and seeing all the new food and the wall and the this and the uniforms and the stores and all that. So it's been fun, and Thursday is going to be very fun, and then Monday should be even more fun. So
yeah, and what's going to be fun on Monday, in addition to the game, is the Jimmy's Famous Seafood Tailgate taking place on Monday, March 31st at 1300 Russell Street. This edition of the legendary opening day celebration features a set from country music sensation Dustin Lynch, an open bar for all ticket packages, a game day food buffet crafted by the great Chef Tony, as well as tailgate-style games, a photo booth, caricature artist, and a freshly shucked raw bar. Get your oysters. Oysters in the news lately from JJ McDonnell. It's going to be a great time, so get your tickets now, starting at $60 with premium options also available, all to be found at tailgoat.com/product, where you'll find your opening day option. So get into that. We got some other stuff going on with Jimmy's this week. I know that you're very involved in, and that is the inaugural Meet the Birds for 2025 for the Orioles. And it is going to be with, one of the all-time great heartthrobs in sports history. And that is, of course, Eric Arditi. And then I think Brady Anderson is going to be involved too.
Yes. That's the rumor on the street. It's your mom and every aunt's favorite player from the 90s. I mean, every woman had seen the sideburns and the underwear posters and the rollerblading pictures and stuff like that. So I'm very excited. I stayed up till about 1 last night doing research on him. Found out I'm not going to say it. I'll leave that to the crowd who's going. Brady and I have a special connection. We'll say that. But I'm excited. He's a very interesting ball player. Very, very interesting.
Very to a lot of people.
He was on Sabrina. He's the only guy in history to hit 50 home runs and appear on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So
that's breaking news to me. This is just coming across my desk.
You didn't know that he was on Sabrina?
I'm not surprised, but no, I didn't.
Oh, yeah. It was I think it was in the middle of the 96 season where, again, he was like a super popular player and they had him on. It was like, I never watched the show, but I watched like a YouTube video about it last night, and they were like, in the show, she had like a wart on her head and needed to cover it with like a hat, and it was an Orioles hat. And for some reason, like Brady Anderson was flashed into the episode, and he's on. If you Google Brady Anderson Sabrina, it's literally him on the show. So I'm very excited. Again, I did a long deep dive on him last night, and I've got some fire lined up for him. So 1 year ago, to almost to this day, at a certain tailgate, there may have been a certain member of this podcast who befriended Brady to the extent that Brady actually texted him first when they exchanged numbers. And so we got all-time picture too.
Yeah, just oh my God, we got to tweet that out. Banks meeting Brady Anderson. It's just one of the all-time. Banks has been in a lot of funny pictures over the years. That one it might take the cake. So we might have to put that out there. You got to get Brady on the show. Sounds like you're starting to make some good inroads here for us.
Yeah, that would be cool to get Brady on. I'm excited. But again, I mean, big week for our friends over at Jimmy's too. They're getting the shout outs on McAfee. You talked about getting the oyster shucked. It's been a while since I got shucked at a bar. But yeah, it's and then again we have the Meet the Birds, and we have a couple other Meet the Birds lined up. We haven't laid out the full. We've dropped some hints along the way, but haven't given out the full roster. It's a good roster this year, so we're excited. And again, baseball. I know football is their bread and butter, but baseball, they're killing it too. So Jimmy's is doing it the right way, obviously.
I will say they do, for the fact that they do have been a little more affiliated with the Ravens seemingly over the years. I will say the food options, as far as the Gunnar burger, as far as some of these food options that we're getting on the Orioles side, they're absolutely hitting that out of the park too on that side. So
yeah, shout out Alyssa too. Thanks, Alyssa, for letting Zach watch.
Thank you, Alyssa. Much needed.
That's a real one.
All right. So Meet the Birds, and that's is that Thursday night, Friday night?
That's Friday night. And again, so people, again, this is playing ahead. Friday night is on Apple TV. The Orioles, second game of the year. Boom, baby, taking it right away from you. So if you don't have Apple TV, Jimmy's will have it. We still have a couple tickets left. But again, make your way to somewhere where a TV is. It's just crazy again that watching sports has become so damn hard, and we've talked about this in the group chat.
If you don't have Apple TV, you got to get it, not just for these Orioles games that are appearing sporadically, but this television show lineup that Apple TV has is quietly like just become one of the best of all time.
I've seen that like all over Twitter, like, I saw that they're like hemorrhaging money, but people are like, their shows are incredible, but those shows, again, that's way above my head. I don't do any of those.
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah, anything that doesn't have an animatronic dinosaur.
Or Tim Robinson. Let's chill out, okay? I've been watching Detroiters again, so let's.
Good. Yeah, that maybe the 50th time probably threw that one for you.
Only the third or fourth. So let's again. We don't need slander thrown my way. You know.
You would like. I think you would like Dope Thief. It's airing right now. A couple episodes out. It's good.
Is it a drug? Is it a police show?
Kind of, yeah. It's a little gun trace task force vibes, but it's funny too.
The only drug and gun shows I like are We Own the City and The Wire. It's because
I'm saying. It's kind of
The Wire. If The Wire was in like Charlotte, I wouldn't give a shit about it. I wouldn't care about it.
Well, that's just that's a damning indictment on you.
I don't. It doesn't. I'm lucky that I got into Breaking Bad. You know, I'd never even been to New Mexico, and.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a big hurdle to clear, having never been to New Mexico to get into one of the best TV shows.
I only started watching The Wire because it was in Baltimore. Like that's well, I watched Homicide too, but again, that was in Baltimore as well. So, you
really just make me physically sick to my stomach sometimes.
Yeah, I make myself physically sick to my stomach too. So join the club, brother.
All right. Well, speaking of physically sick to your stomach, maybe time to do some predictions, do some takes that might make some people physically sick to their stomachs. Hopefully not. I feel like we're probably going to be pretty shock. I think if you're a longtime listener to this program, you probably know how this is going to go, but it's going to be a fun time. This is, in fact, as I alluded to at the top of the show, a very special show that we do every year. Sometimes I'm on it. Sometimes I haven't been. I don't think you've missed one because this is kind of your beat, but it is the 2025 Baltimore Orioles official season preview, where we go through, what we think is going to happen with the Orioles. We're going to, kind of get into all of that. Before we jump into it, we have some news items that we're going to hit, but that also kind of tie into, I think, our season-long predictions. First of all, I mean, just we've been doing this, I feel like, every time we've talked Orioles the last couple of weeks, which has been a little sporadic, maybe once every 2 weeks, talk some spring training, talk some progress on spring training, just general vibe on the team. How are we feeling about things?
I'm feeling good. Again, I mean, I see the betting odds. I see them all over on DraftKings and a couple of the other sites. And like the Orioles are still, it's weird because Pacoda has them, I think, at like 88.5 wins, and they have the Yankees at 88.
Right now, it's 87.3. Toronto, 85.5. New York, 85.3. Tampa Bay, 82.9. And Boston just getting the short end of the stick at 80.0. I had that queued up for later in the show, but we can get into the Pacoda right now. That was attention grabbing.
Yeah. And again, it's like, I understand it because Pacoda hated us all throughout like the mid 2010s, when they were really kicking off. And we love to like hate on Pacoda then, but I still feel good about this team. Like if we fast forward in 6 months, 7 months or whatever, and the Orioles are AL East champions, it's not going to surprise me. Again, I think, and this is my hot take coming up. I'll go a little deeper, but I think this offense is going to be really, really, really good. I think this offense is going to absolutely mash. Obviously the pitching is what a lot of people are hung up on, and the Grayson news, which we'll get into in a little bit, that obviously is worrisome. The bullpen kind of looked to be a strength earlier a couple weeks ago, and now it's not with the Kittredge injury and, how some of the guys performed in spring training. But I don't know. I'm still, I'm not like the biggest orange Kool-Aid guy in the world. I think I'll call something out and be negative if I have to. But I think the bullpen is the weak part of the team. I think the rotation again is lacking as well. But I think this offense is going to be really, really, really good, and it's going to be able to make up for some of that and kind of put makeup on a pig a little bit. Then I also think that they're going to get better throughout the season. Kyle Bradish hopefully we'll be back a little after the All-Star break. Same thing with Tyler Wells. Congrats to the Wells. They just had their first baby, I think 2 or 3 days ago. So congrats to them. But again, they're going to be getting some of these guys back. So I'm still, call me a homer, say whatever you want. I'm not saying like 105 wins or 110 wins in, the division. I think that they can win this division with 90 wins. Again, you just read off Pacoda, and those guys, say what you want about them, but they know their stuff. Same thing with the gambling companies. Like they have the Orioles right there pretty much with the Yankees. And did the Yankees get that much better? They lost the top 3 player in baseball, and their horse of a pitcher is out with Tommy John. So I'm very confident in them. I think everybody takes a step up, and I think we get some really, really big years out of the guys in the batter's box, and we kind of just cross our fingers and hope that the pitching can figure something out.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty similar with you. I'm feeling pretty good about them. And it's not like, what I sort of like about it is that this just kind of feels like good is kind of the normal now. And it almost kind of feels like where the Ravens are at a little bit, where I just kind of have faith that the Ravens, like, they're going to grind out 10 wins. They're going to find a way to do it. And then anything on top of that is hopefully going to be cake. With the Orioles, I kind of, with this, quote unquote, young core in place, I know there's a lot of concerns about the future of it. And, we had Cal Riley signing a contract today, and people kind of freaking out about Adley Rutschman and some of this, young core that has not been extended. But just as of for the right now, and, hopefully for the near and far future, I feel like pretty much every year it feels like they're going to be fielding a competitive team, one that, as we'll get into, I expect to very much be in contention for the postseason. And yeah, we've got Trevor right here. They won 101 games without a frontline starter. And that's kind of what I was driving towards, is think about where you and I and the other 3 guys were specifically 1 year ago at this time, walking into the Jimmy's Famous Seafood Tailgate. David Rubenstein had just officially purchased
stumbling in. Some of us had their early morning at Pickles. One of us had just gotten off a flight. That's right.
From Los Angeles. I'd been awake for 24 hours. Yeah. Yeah. And, we were walking into that feeling very, very optimistic. Corbin Burns was about to get the ball in the first game of the year as this, shiny new object, this shiny acquisition. Rubenstein had just purchased the team. The young core was pretty much complete by that point. Almost all those guys had been called all the way up. Jackson Holiday hadn't debuted yet, and that was even a source of contention. And it was just like, when he gets here, I mean, things are really going to kick into overdrive. I think all of us were kind of expecting them to be somewhere around 100 wins. Did not quite work out like that, but that felt like a down season last year, down that second half stretch. It just felt like things were completely working against them, and they still found a way to win 91 games.
Yeah.
91. Yeah. And, they were a wild card, and we all know what happened in the playoffs, and that's got to change. But overall, I think that's a good baseline to set. And like, I just feel it feels a little more kind of steady, and it feels a little more normal, and it feels like they can kind of just, and they'll have to ease their way into the season with the way the injury outlook looks right now. But it doesn't feel like you're just getting shotgun blasted into this new era the way it was last season. It feels like they're a little more under the radar, and there's a lot of depth, which we're going to get into, and I'm pretty excited.
The under the radar thing is what I talked about last night. I went on with Tim and Matt with at Foul Ball and Pigtown, and talked about that. The expectations the last 2 years, and again, you can blame the media, blame us, the fans. I mean, again, 2 years ago we were like, this team, they're going to be pretty good. I do think, again, they kind of mixed up their years. They should have had the year they had last year, 2 years ago, and the 101 wins. They should have had that last year. That's the natural progression, where 2022 was like, oh, the edging, and we're getting there, and under 500, we're, oh my God, we're at 500. And then the next year it's like, boom, 101
trading Trey at the deadline, controversially, like,
yeah. But again, like talk about like the progression of the team. Like, you would have thought, if after 2022 you said, hey, this team's going to win 91 games next year, you would have been like, oh yeah, that'll be sick. And then you're like, hey, guess what? They're going to trade for a Cy Young winning pitcher. and, they're going to bring up Jackson Holiday at some point. You're going to be like, oh, this team's going to win 101 games and win the East. Like, absolutely. So we said it too after 23. They they way overshot expectations. And then last year they came back down to earth, and the injury luck really smacked them in the face. Again, 23, they stayed healthy besides for Mountcastle and Mullins. We got the resurgence of Bonds 2.0 and Aaron Hicks, and that was great and all. But they just they hit the peak like way too quick, and then they came back down to earth, and that's what baseball will do. It'll humble you. And again, it humbled the hell out of them. I mean, you watched the interviews and the games like after the playoffs, and those guys looked like they saw their dog get blasted with a shotgun, like right in front of them. Like they looked like they saw a ghost. But yeah, so again, this year, you're not hearing the like, oh, this team's going to win 100. They're going to be, in the World Series. So it's kind of like good, let somebody else talk about the Red Sox, talk about Bregman to the Red Sox and, Toronto, all the problems they're having and all that stuff. But again, I think it's kind of good that they don't have all these expectations and cameras and being like, they have to do this. They have to win 100 games or it's a failed season. So again, I mean, you talk to any Orioles fans, if they win a playoff series, I think people are going to be like, yeah, it's a pretty good season, I think. But that's obviously not what we want. We're past that part. But I think the expectation things is I think that's going to be big. And I think that's going to help take some of the pressure off and let their blonde hair down and just play the best baseball that they can.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think we're both kind of in alignment here. I'm interested to see how that's going to affect both of our predictions. But yeah, we'll certainly get into that down the line. Couple little last bits of 11th hour news here before opening day really is on Thursday here. Grayson officially to the IL. I don't know if we've discussed that yet. Gunner's on rehab, unlikely to start the year with the O's. He's in Norfolk right now. So Grayson actually went on foul territory today and gave some like real insight into what's been going on with him for the last several years now, which was some of it was pretty new to me. And so I figured I'd just kind of cut that and we could play right now.
But no, I mean, I've got, I've had something I've been dealing with for the last 3 or 4 years. It kind of flared up on me. So, like I said, the tricep flared up a little bit, had a little bit of tendonitis in the tricep. So we had to make sure that kind of calmed down and make sure it didn't get a lot worse. But thankfully, had to get some checkups and some scans on the elbow, and it was all good. It was all healthy. So, really fortunate with that news. But yeah, just making sure the inflammation could settle down a little bit and, kind of start the ramp up process again. Yeah, so I mean, throwing a pin here in the next few days, and really start the ramp up. I think for me, basically, spring training starts over, so kind of getting a fresh start with that, and hopefully we don't miss too much time, but got to make sure I'm healthy and ready to get back out there and make starts.
So, throwing a bullpen, spring training has basically started over. I mean, that essentially tells you he's going to be out for a month at least. But really, I mean, the meat of that interview was him talking about what's been going on. I mean, he ended last season with an issue with his scap, I believe, and now he's talking about his elbow. And an interesting tweet here from Jacob Calvin Meyer that I don't actually have queued up, but he tweeted in a quote of this video clip, "Here's every way Grayson Rodriguez's injury has been described: tricep soreness, elbow discomfort, elbow inflammation, parentheses, no ligament damage, elbow inflammation / impingement, triceps tendinitis." That's a lot of stuff going on around the elbow area there.
So the only thing that kind of it doesn't worry me. What am I trying to say? It doesn't. When they talked about it, they didn't say, they've never, like he said, they've never said ligament, and they said it's the back of his elbow. It's not where the UCL is. They haven't said the word UCL at all. And again, if you look back at Bradish and you look back at Bundy and you look back at all these guys who got Tommy John, Matt Wieters, it wasn't, because it wasn't his elbow. He was just saying it was the tricep area. So that's what, again, you see the people, this is completely different than Kyle Bradish last year. Literally a different part of the body. Like that's, again, I know people hear the arm injury and they think that it's linked. It's not the same as Bradish at all. Like there's been no PRP shot. There's been no rest. We're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. We've heard that song and dance a billion times.
Yeah. He's already throwing again. So. And
he threw yesterday at the Nat Stadium. He was throwing 90 feet. It was his second throwing session. He had another one, I believe. I guess that they were still in Sarasota, maybe. But that was another thing. And I talked about this last night on the podcast. He's with them right now. Like, he's in Toronto with them, I believe. He was with them yesterday in DC. If they were worried, they would have kept him down in Sarasota and had him, working out. He's the fact that he's traveling with the team and is with them, I think is big. Because again, if he was down there rehabbing, if they wanted him to rehab, they would keep him down there to rehab with the doctors and the trainers and stuff like that. But he's not. He's with them. Again, I saw his wife and his family down. I talked to them in spring training. That was another big thing to me, and this was a couple days after it was reported, but he was still with them. It's not like with Cole, when Garrett Cole, the stuff popped up with him, immediately they sent him to LA and they were like, go to this doctor, get looked out here, get the second opinion. They didn't do that. He's been with them the whole time. So again, I'm just picking up on little stuff like that. Like, he got, like I said, him getting on the plane yesterday and flying up to DC with them. And I don't know if he is in Toronto. I would assume so, though. Again, if he's if he was with them in DC, but to me, again, I'm just reading the tea leaves. I think that's great news for him. And again, if it takes him a month, 6 weeks, okay, that's perfectly fine. Let him rehab this and figure it out. Again, I know he's been battling that stuff for 3 or 4 years. Maybe it's
glaring lack of dead animals on the wall behind him. I feel like he's probably in a hotel room.
Yeah, and again, exactly. So if he's there, then yeah, there's no carcasses, draped over a dining room table or something like that. But that's just my takeaway from it. That's me on the outside looking in. That's what I think. And again, it does suck that he's kind of had this injury bug, in AAA when he was going to come up, and then he gets pulled out, and then the lat thing last year and this now. So who knows? Because I know they talked about he kind of reworked his delivery and stuff, and maybe that put stress on the his tricep and back there in that area. But again, I see the people who are screaming Tommy John from the mountains. It's like people just want to like be right. They don't want like good things to happen to their team. They just want to say like, I told you I was right. And it doesn't, an asteroid could hit the earth and they'll be like, I told you.
It's not even about like being right. They're just trying.
It's plus 450 an asteroid,
Yeah. It's a self-defense mechanism for if and when things do go wrong. It's like, oh, well, I knew that was coming, so it can't hurt me. Like, no, it's still going to hurt you. Like, so you don't have to immediately default to the worst option. Charlie, this is a Cal Ripken batting shirt. I think it's got his name on the back. If not, it has the 8 at least.
You're wearing another man. Never mind. Okay.
I'm not the one who has an issue with that. I'm talking to the guy who does. So
I listen. I didn't say anything. That's
need to get Spenny on here to break down all his favorite jerseys he's going to be getting this year. Like his whole bit about how he's like not in on the Orioles. Like he's going to be out there probably next weekend.
100%. He'll be at Pickles maybe like before I am on Monday.
Gunner's going to hit a home run or something. He's going to rush to that, he's going to rush to the team store, the pro shop. He's going to use one of those dystopian self-checkout kiosks, which we're going to get into, and he's going to be right back into this thing. But that's what's going on with Spenny. Yeah, and I think you're right. I don't necessarily default to the Riley, this is a good call too. The black trucker hats with the Exit 52. I think all 5.
I got mine hanging up right here.
Yeah, I got mine in the up in my room. Did some spring cleaning this past weekend, and I found it. So I'll probably be wearing that out soon, and we will get more of those out for you. And I mean, I'm kind of with you. It's concerning to see it described that way, like I was hinting at, but like overall, the evidence seems to point to them just being cautious with him, which is what they were doing with the scap. Like he probably could have gone if they needed him to. Felix probably could have gone if they needed him to at the end of last season, but they chose not to risk it, rightfully so, based upon the way that offense was playing. In conjunction with that news, a move that we have not discussed on these here airwaves yet is effectively, I wouldn't call it a replacement, but they have signed a familiar face, everybody's favorite innings eater, at least since Jordan Lyles. Kyle Gibson has been signed to the Orioles organization, optioned out to the minors, expected to join the big leagues somewhere around May 1st. Eric, your take on Uncle Kyle coming back into the fold?
Yeah, the old man is back. I was in the McDonald's drive-thru when I got the text after, I think that was Friday night, after indulging in some cocktails and watching the Maryland game, which was an absolute laugher. But yeah, again, I mean, I'm excited to see him back again. He's not, people are gonna bitch and complain, but again, he's a professional who's gonna come in and do his job and eat some innings. And if he can provide them as kind of a stopgap guy. And again, there's everyone being like, what do you do with Kramer? What do you do with this guy? I think he's just depth. I think that's all he is. And again, we've seen it. Look at every team around the league. Every single team has pitching injuries. Every single team. The Yankees have Cole out. The Red Sox have Giolito and Brian Bayo out. Shane McClanahan with the Rays just came off shaking his Tommy John arm the other day. So like the injuries are happening, and they're happening more and more often. So you just need as many guys as you can. You need as many depth pieces as you can. And again, Kyle knows the team. He knows Hyde. He knows, his way around the ballpark. And again, I mean, you heard those guys talk about him and like what he means to a clubhouse. It's not a bad thing to have him around.
It's cool that like he loved it here too, and he was saying that when he got signed, he was like, it was a special place for me and my family, and that was just 1 year. So it's good to get those vibes back in the room.
Absolutely. And again, he talked about it where he was like, yeah, I thought I was going to retire. Like I was perfectly dead set on retiring. And that's why somebody last night was asking me, like, was this a move for great? They had the video of Grayson throwing, and then 5 hours later, they're signing Kyle Gibson. And Matt, again, on the Foul Ball podcast was like, oh, to me, like he's getting Tommy John. And it's like, no, it doesn't. I don't think it has any correlation, because they had said that they had reached out to him weeks ago and were like, hey, stay. It's the same thing they did with John Means. They told John Means that stay in shape, let's keep talking. And if we need you, we'll give you a call, or, if something pops up, you let us know and we'll be in contact. So, again, my ears didn't like perk up being like, oh, what's going on now? Like with Grayson or anything like that. Again, I think it's just, he wanted, he probably wanted to be here. Again, he's not costing them anything really. So it's not going to hurt them at all. It's just a depth move, and you can't have enough depth pieces and arms, and my guess is he'll help way more than he hurts.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it will be interesting given the fact that, we're talking about him ramping up and joining the club in 5 weeks. Like Grayson hopefully will be in the mix by then. And then, you're talking about a rotation. We can get into it. I wrote it down. Sounds like Suarez is going to be coming out of the bullpen to start things out. Zach Eflin gets the ball in game 1. You work your way through Dean and some of these guys, and then Cade Povich is going to be on the bump for the home opener. I mean, you add Kyle Gibson in that mix. Grayson's not even going to be fully ramped up, and ready until maybe right around the time Gibson is. I mean, that's pretty solid rotation in my opinion.
Yeah, again, it's not going to blow anyone away, but I think it's a perfully good rotation. Like I was looking today. Somebody tweeted out the Mets rotation.
It's so interesting. Like Sugano is such a wild card. Like that is.
I am excited for him. I think people are going to fall in love with him. Again, watching him live, standing behind Gary Sanchez, watching his bullpen, I was like, this guy is awesome. And again, this is a guy who nobody really has a book out on him. Nobody knows, like, I'm going to sit on this pitch for him. Because, I was reading one of the articles from, I forget who it was, but they were saying, like, it's going to be a cat and mouse game with him. He's not going to blow 98 by you or 99 and, watch your lips. But he's going to play that cat and mouse game. And it's like, I don't know what he's going to throw because I don't know what he throws. And again, the foul ball guys, I was talking to them last night. They made a great point. Like, he's pitched to the Japanese hitters who are much more, contact guys and much more disciplined than, a Rowdy Tillett, some of these big, just sluggers. Like I have a lip in and I'm going to hit this ball 490 feet. Like they weren't doing that in Japan. Adam may have been doing that, but a lot of their hitters weren't.
Yeah. It's just like an interesting kind of cultural difference there.
Yeah. Too. And again, it's a thing. It's a talking point, but I think people are really, really going to like him and what he brings. And he's going to be, again, I mean, you see it with some of the flamethrowers, like when Felix comes in, like, okay, I have to sit on his fastball and I'm going to try and hit it, 400 feet. And with Sugano, you can't do that because he's going to embarrass you. And those balls, they're like Frisbees. They're dipping and diving and all over the place. So I'm very excited for other people to see him and to see him in game action.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned concerns with the bullpen. Now that spring training is wrapped and we kind of have an idea on who these, 8 or so guys are that they're going to have at their disposal. It didn't look great throughout the course of spring training. Unfortunately, they had a collective ERA, if my math was right, of 6.53. But that was massively skewed by one Sir Anthony Dominguez, who had a 19.5. The rest of them, struggling a little bit to break 5, some of them in the 4s. I think maybe 1 or 2 in the 3s. But yeah, massively skewed to Sir Anthony. So bullpen not really in a great position right now, at least if you take spring training stats seriously, which I don't think you should take the stats seriously, but they do at least tell you what's going on a little bit. Felix Bautista is not going to be throwing on back-to-back days to start the season out. That makes Sir Anthony your, spot closer in effect. So that kind of concerns me a little bit. I mean, like, you don't want to read into stats too much, but they do literally just tell you what a performance was. And when they're skewed that far, up to a 19.5 for Sir Anthony, that concerns me a little bit. Bullpen as a whole, but certainly him as kind of that guy who you're probably going to be playing some close ball games in this early season when every team believes in themselves and, believes that they can go and grind out wins. It's maybe a little worrying.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I was at the game. He gave up the cycle in an inning to the Rays. And it was like a team of like mostly minor leaguers at that point. I think it was 1-1. And again, it was like the 5th inning. So we were like, all right, all the big guys are kind of out. We started seeing the last names on the jerseys disappear. So we were like, all right, let's walk around and check out Ed Smith. And by the time we got from like our seats in right field all the way over to like the left field kind of plaza, it was like 5-1 or 6-1. And we were like, oh shit, what happened? And we looked up, it was Sir Anthony. And we we're like, oh, okay. Well, that's not great, but yeah, it's definitely worrisome. Because last year we saw he was good for maybe a bomb every other appearance, and when you're closing ball games, you can't be doing that. So yeah, if it's going to be him closing ball games the night after Felix does, or if it's going to be Suarez, I wouldn't hate seeing Suarez in there, for a couple save opportunities. If maybe it's a lefty heavy, you can get a Perez or someone like that, Soto maybe. I don't know. It's going to be the bullpen does kind of have to sack up, and it sucks because I don't think any of the guys have options. So before, Elias was always very good at doing that. We're going to send this guy down. We're going to bring this guy up. We're going to move this pieces around. You can't do that. You can't do that now because I don't think any of these guys have options. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of juggle it. And we're kind of waiting like, oh, maybe a guy is DFA'd or didn't make the roster. Maybe the Orioles can make a move on him. And that didn't happen. Nobody really, I think the Yankees picked up Ryan Yarborough or whatever, but this is kind of the group that they're going to go with. And Baker's down there too. I think he gave up 4 hits in spring and they were all 4 home runs. We were at the game when he gave up his first hit and it was a home run. He gave up 3 hits that game, all 3 home runs. But his velo,
he's a streaky guy, and the velo when he gets that going, and then he's swag surfing off of the mound after a strikeout. That's you get the highs and the lows. He's the Baker coaster for sure.
Yeah, the Baker coaster. Yes. But yeah, the bullpen is going to kind of be like a hold on to your butts. Here we go, and let's see what happens. So again, I am excited to see what Felix can do. And it's funny because they're like, his velo's not back and all this. It's like he's still touching 98, like 98, 99. Like that's pretty good again for a guy who is coming off, the Tommy John and working his way back. But yeah, the bullpen is again, it's going to be a lot of clenching and kind of watching the game through your eyes, just kind of waiting and hoping and praying to whatever God you pray to.
Yeah, and then I guess Kicktriggs is kind of you hope he'll be your found money in that regard, but that's not going to be for a while, obviously. And yeah, I mean, when you talk about what they've done or not done at the trade deadline over the past couple of years, this might be a good year, depending on how things shake out, to maybe try and go get yourself a reliever, which is something they haven't really done as far as like high profile names. They've kind of just pieced it together back there. It'd be interesting to see if they were to try and do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, a guy, David Robertson is still sitting out there, and nobody assigned him. It's not like just nobody assigned him. He was really good last year. So I don't know if that's a thing. Also, I like this guy a lot, but there were a lot of people, and I was one of them, who were kind of like trashing them for not picking up Coulomb. Coulomb was not good in spring. So, that's another guy who a lefty, a trusted lefty arm. He won't be here, but yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys out there that they can make moves. I think they would have made moves already, but like you said, at the deadline, bullpens, they win you games. They win you games flat out. In the playoffs, you make it a 6-inning game. You also have to score runs, which the Orioles didn't do. But yeah, bullpen is it's going to be the bullpen. We can just call it the bullpen coaster.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the cardiac kids. Yeah, I think we're just you're kind of at right that we're at a point now where this is probably the team we're going to be seeing for the first couple of weeks. I wouldn't expect a ton of movement right off the bat. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out. But overall, you're right. It's just kind of strap in the seatbelt and the gif of the guy with the sweat and kind of, exactly. Nick Carter, hold it together with duct tape until Felix is ready to go back-to-back days. And Ketrich is back. And then we've got another comment from Riley Wilson here. Do you think having Felix back to close allows the rest of the pen to settle to their roles throughout the season? I think that will be huge because Sir Anthony was not really a closer and he was getting thrust into that role. And to your point, he gave a couple of bombs. You think about that Mets series at City and a couple other, just tough outings there, but it's just not really his role necessarily. So I think when Felix is ready to go back to back, that'll shift him down. That'll shift other guys down. We'll see what happens with the starting rotation, but hopefully Suarez is kind of a long man and can eat some innings and keep guys fresh too. Overall, there's a lot of depth. I mean, it's not super high quality or anything in some ways, but it's just guys that I think they just have a lot of notches in their belt at the very least, and they'll hopefully be able to piece together games here as we trend more towards normalcy with Felix getting back to his regular role.
Yeah, and like you said, and like we've talked about, he's not going to do back-to-backs. He's not going to go multi-innings. I mean, Hyde was the second half. What was that, second half of 23? Like, I remember the game in Minnesota, I think when Mullins made that catch up against the wall in 23, where that was like when Hyde slammed his foot on the gas and they put Bautista out there for the second inning and everyone was like, what is he doing? How can he do this? And it ended up working and he did that a couple more times. I don't expect to see that at all, maybe sometime like late August, September, but there's no real reason to push him. But yeah, they've kind of got to get it figured out on the days that Felix can't go. And, I would expect to see him sparingly early on and just kind of really, really ease him back into to the closing role.
Yeah. And I mean, contrary to what we saw down the stretch of last year, you'd think this offense is going to be good enough to keep you in games, not regardless of what's happening on the other side, but within reason. So
yeah, absolutely.
Little Camden Yards roundup before we officially get into our predictions for 2025. Couple fun notes here. This one struck me as a little gut wrenching, a little soul rattling. This is the new self checkout situation that we've got going on here at Camden Yards. This is the team store that spending a lot of money in, and you can see, putting the bag into I don't know if they're weighing it. I don't know what's going on. There's an iPad situation here where you're checking out. I don't know, man. This just gives me weird vibes. O's Pay debit options there for you. Maybe we'll have it'll be like a DoorDash situation where you're going to be able to pay for these items on credit for the next however many years of your life. A lot of points on top of that. I'm sure a lot of interest and VIG is going to be running. Just completely, slashing labor and removing the person-to-person relations from all these transactions. Great stuff here from the world, but of course that's just where we're heading. Yeah, I know you're fired up about this.
Very Black Mirror-ish. I've never seen the show, but I think I get it. It's very Black Mirror-ish, right? That's pretty spot on.
Yeah, sure. Black Mirror, Twilight Zone. It seems like
that. Yeah. Well, again, I mean, they do that with the food already, Camden. You go and you put your tray of chicken tenders and a soda on,
and with beer too, right? I think so, yeah. I think there might have been some certain movements on the Everything app about grabbing a beer, and it's dubious whether or not it was.
But also, again, they have people standing there. Like it's not like it's a free for all. Like they've got people sitting there. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Again, my dad is still every day. He's like, oh, is Orioles State, is Camden Yards, are they going to take cash again? It's like they are never going to take cash ever again. And he keeps going, well, they lost my business.
So. My favorite is the people who love the physical tickets and they're just really.
That I get. I love a good ticket.
I do too. I get that part of it. But the one I don't get is completely unrelated, but kind of related, is the people. And I traveled with a couple coworkers recently. Gotta have my airplane ticket. Gotta have my airplane. I need the physical copy. I'm like, dude, just get the app, get the boarding pass on your phone, and it's way easier. But apparently, no way.
Even I had that on my phone which I was fine with. But then I was worried because we were flying out at night, and we went to the game the whole day, and we were out of the Airbnb. So I was like, shit, I kind of have to keep my phone charged until I at least get to the airport and can pull up my ticket. But yeah, it's the times they are a changing. You said it, Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one looks like Ekiben is going to be. I don't know if I said
People love this place. People
Evidently.
really love this place. I've heard of
Yeah.
it. I
People
bet
are
Spenny's a
fucking-
big place. I
Oh,
bet Spenny probably loves that.
Well, that strikes me as like a Spenny in his early 20s, probably like is just crushing like Andy Nelson's and a bunch of burgers, and then the franchise comes into his life and just introduces a bunch of clean eating. And Ekiben is probably just a mainstay in the Schultz household right now.
Yeah, many like to-go boxes piled up in a corner somewhere, and
Chipotle bags just in the corner of your room.
Is it Korean, right? Is it Korean food or it's something like that? I think it's Asian, right?
I think it's Asian. I'm not sure 100%. So correct us if we're wrong. People are really riding for it on the Everything app. So it's interesting. I'd be interested to check it out. I mean, we were talking the other day about what's ballpark food, what isn't. This doesn't immediately strike me as something that would be, but it's almost so far out of, past that Rubicon that it really intrigues me to like go to a ballpark and try some Ekiben.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'd be down to try it. I can always go for that. So, it's I know Jeremy Kahn was tweeting about it. A lot of people were pumped for it. So it's that, and there was another one. There was another restaurant that they put. It started with an A.
Let's see.
Damn, I forget what it is. But again, today was the big like have the media come in, try all the food, and there's like a donut place I saw. Brendan Mortensen was eating at it. So yeah, they've got a couple nice new places. It's again, I'm good for one of those. Like I'll try something every now and then, but just give me a dog, give me some popcorn. Let me get my refillable. That's what I'm pumped about, the refillable soda cups. That is now you're up my alley.
Now, are we talking, is that like you have to get a souvenir cup or?
I think so. I don't think like, I don't know if I can bring a cup in and refill. If I could, that would be incredible. Like a 7-Eleven Big Gulp. How you can just walk in and fill that up. I would love to be able to do that.
You would be bringing buckets in and just.
I would purchase a Gatorade cooler from the team and just have it. I'd be at one of those soda things forever. Absolutely forever. So
So I'm looking at some of the Ekiben stuff right here. Madison Wyrick, I believe, wife of Matt Wyrick. Ekiben is
very nice young lady.
Yeah. Oh, she's an editor at the Sun. I didn't know that. So they're both good for them.
Social media, she does it all. We got the whole layout, the whole laydown. She was good.
Yeah. You were pounding beers with the Wyricks down there in Sarasota.
We were.
That's cool. So her headline here, I won't click through the article, but after appearing at select Orioles games last season, the eatery will be one of the ball club's season-long offerings. The menu includes chicken and tofu sandwiches, tofu nuggets, and broccoli ramen. Again, that does not strike me as ballpark food.
No, but I get it, because that's what people kind of want to eat now when they're going out, and it's healthier, and it's I get it. I fully get. I know people who are going to buy it, and I will never judge. Eat whatever you want. That's fine. After I just wrote a blog last week ripping people who eat hamburgers at ball games, but if you want to have your tofu, that's fine.
I think it's just because Rovell was all in on the warehouse burger, so you were probably that probably just immediately like turned you against it.
I could also see me having enough drinks where somebody has a tofu thing and I end up trying it. I could see that.
Yeah, no, I like diversifying a little bit. I feel like you're still always going to have your ballpark dogs and all that good stuff, but the diversification's it's good for everyone.
Yeah, you need it, and they're Baltimore staples, so I get it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Take Jimmy's away, and you give that. It's whatever.
I was going to say it does kind of run in conflict with Jimmy's, which we hate, but it's a business decision for both sides actually. So I think Jimmy's will be all right, and I'm excited to see what these guys have to offer. Last one on the list here, the new left field wall was officially unveiled. You were talking about the media day and the beat reporters kind of making their rounds and started doing the press circuit for all these new changes. Sort of the biggest one on the list here was, we've been talking ad nauseum, it feels like, for years now about this wall and the changes to it. And now there are more changes.
You've been talking about another wall, but that's on your other podcast.
That was way more quick-witted than I would ever expect from you. Congratulations. And I will leave that hanging in the air. So they're talking about this wall specifically, which is in left field. And obviously the changes to it this past offseason were well publicized. We hadn't really seen it in action up until this point, which husband of Madison Wyrick, Matt Wyrick, I got a tweet here from him, which showcases a video of it. Pulling that right up now for our listeners. Here you go. Here it is. You see the wall kind of running at that jagged slant, and then they've got a standing room only section here, which you're seeing right now if you're watching on YouTube. That's got kind of these sort of
concert guardrail kind of things.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like a street guardrail, whatever you might call it, and that's kind of your standing room only section. Much to the chagrin of Zach Hampel, this is only going to be, who might actually have a child for this. It's only going to be available to patrons 12 years old and younger and their parents. I think this is really cool. This is it's pretty awesome to, say what you will about the changes to the wall or whatever. I like it for the diversity it's going to bring to that part of the field again. I think it was a little all or nothing, a little too all or nothing for my taste the last couple of years. So I'm excited to see how it affects it in game. But I think this is really cool to make it standing room only and then just make it so that kids can get out there with their parents, get a different view of the field, just a different perspective on the action, and not have a bunch of, rowdy dickheads like me and you crowding it like we do at like the center field bar or the flag court. I don't know. Very positive all around on this.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be cool. I think his name's Corey Schulman. I see his name on Twitter all the time. So I was wondering about this too, but if you look, it's
below the seats.
Yeah, because there's a decent amount of steps walking down. So again, and then again, if you got to think, if they're walking down probably 5 or 6 feet, even if you're up in your seat, you're still probably 8 or 9 feet above them. So unless George Marasan is down there with his 12-year-old kid, I don't think you're going to have any issues seeing over anybody or no one's going to be in your way, things like that. But I think it's cool too. And again, I think it's only for people in the sections. I think it's 84 through like 74, I think. And again, it's from what it sounds like is like, you obviously have to have a ticket in those sections with your child who is 12 or younger. And I don't know if they're going to do it like by inning. And they're like, okay, in this section, we go down now. In this section, you go down then. And kind of like that, and it was also funny, like there were people on Twitter because some of the beat reporters did kind of just say like, they were like, this is going to be 12, like an H2O situation, like 12 and under. And I think they thought that they were just going to take the kids and like put them in here and like, hey kids, watch out, Ryan Mountcastle's coming up. Like everybody keep your head on a swivel. Like he's shooting fish in a barrel out there. Like, no, there's going to be parents and there's going to be workers out there who are kind of like making sure.
You always get one ACL tear at the home run derby, and it's always like a 14-year-old.
Well, they're going to make sure no one gets like Simon Birch's mom, and your head's going to be on a swivel, and again, you got to be paying attention. But yeah, it's cool. Again, I think it's really neat. I still think, again, I've said it, in the lower area where obviously they're on that metal kind of platform thing, there's still room below there. I'm telling you, if they put a bar down there or like a picnic area and maybe put some of the fence as chain link, I think that would be cool. Again, the Mets do it out in right field. The Red Sox had I think it was bleacher bar in center field where you could see through before the game. I think something like that would be pretty neat. And again, it's a unique experience where you're right there next to the, to left fielder. You're right next to Colton. You're right next to, you can heckle Jason Dominguez all you want. There's going to be some cool stuff there, but yeah, I'm excited. I think it looks fine. It's going to help the Orioles. It's going to help the other team a little bit too. But again, with the way that this team hits, Adley's put one over the wall as a lefty, so he's going to be able to do that more. We saw Westbrook and Ramon get robbed in the playoff game. That's 2 home runs right there. So, if we're doing that this year, then the Orioles would have won. So I do want to kind of put that out there.
I think Ryan Mountcastle, friend of the program, probably doing moonwalks at the site of this.
I'm telling you, he was very, very excited. And I talked to him in private about it. And there were words that were said. Even Trey got caught MF in that wall a couple times. So
yeah,
I don't think anybody really liked it. So
yeah,
I liked it.
I did. I mean, I liked it for what it was. It's kind of a nice meet in the middle situation. Like I'm glad that,
and it's still, it obviously looks funky. It's not the Camden Yards that we obviously grew up with, but I think it looks fine. Optically, it's whatever. I think it's perfectly okay. Ballparks change all the time. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, a couple other notes, or maybe even only one more. It sounds like the new sound system is officially kind of on display there.
I think temporary one, yeah.
Yeah, so it's temporary solution, I think, just for this year. Then they'll continue to try and work on improving it. Rubenstein has, I think, made some comments about how that's a priority for him, which is good. So yeah, I'm excited for that too, because that was another one that was really needed. I think only thing I'd like is like a legit scoreboard somewhere that is not just in the place where the one is, because it'd be nice to be able to kind of get a look at that. But that would be hard to do without butchering certain areas. So I'll leave that up to them.
That's going to be interesting. I know there were people who want to put a scoreboard from the left field bleachers, the upper deck, stretching to the scoreboard, like, so you're completely blocking out the Hilton pretty much. And that would do something with the wind, I'm sure. And there would be some like nerd stat analytics thing talking about how the home runs would be down because the wind tunnel or something like that. But yeah, I mean, the sound system, I remember, I think they interviewed Hyde about it. They asked Hyde a question about it earlier. And he mentioned how bad it sucks. And I was like, man, if a manager who, like, I feel like you could ask a manager about something and he's like, I couldn't even tell you. I don't know what songs they play or something, but he was like, oh yeah, I've heard it. It's bad. Like if he's paying attention to how bad it is, then yeah, they obviously had to do something. So again, it's and this stuff is a process too. It's going to take a couple years, but they're underway. And
yeah, I mean, it's almost a 40-year-old ballpark at this point, which is like pretty ancient with the rate that these things are getting built. So it's just going to, like, you talk about it not being the one we grew up with. Like, that's a good thing if we want to keep some semblance of the one we grew up with, because like, it feels like a lot of these owners are, I don't think it would ever happen with somewhere like Camden Yards, but maybe it eventually could have gotten to that point, and they just want to raise it down and they want to take taxpayer money and just build a new one. And it's just, it's a tough situation when that kind of thing happens. And I think doing this kind of stuff will ensure that it won't. So,
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Is that all we got on opening show notes? Anything else you want to hit? Fun tidbits?
No, I think that's it. I think you covered it all. So,
okay. Well, with that, it's time to jump into the second half of the show, which is, of course, the main event. It is our official predictions for the 2025 season for the Baltimore Orioles. We've got a bunch of notes to hit here. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sort of questions that we're going to frame this around, and kind of predictions that we're going to give, and then some other additional ones that we threw in there kind of just for fun as a little discussion piece. So, I mean, we'll just start off with the main event, just right from the top. Wins and losses. What is your record prediction for this team, Eric?
I think I said last night, I think I said 92. Again, I think they'll be better than last year. And again, I think some of that has to do with the wall coming in. I think it has to do with, again, I think these young guys, I think Colton takes a step up. I think Jackson takes a step up. I think we see a brand new Adley Rutschman, the first half last year, the 2023 version, whichever one. So I think the offense is going to be really, really good. So I'm sticking with 92. And again, it factors in the other teams too. The Yankees not being that, them losing a couple big pieces, and the Red Sox getting a little bit better, and the Toronto kind of, I don't know, playing fiddlesticks with Vlad, and who knows how that's going to end. But yeah, I think 92, which again, it could be the division. They could be 4 games off the division. Who knows? This division is a beast, and it's kind of up and down. But who knows? The Rays could win 98 and playing in a minor league ballpark. But we'll see. I think 92. What is that? 92 and 70? I ain't no math major, but
92 and 70. Yeah. And I said pretty much in lockstep with you. I said 93 and 69. They won 91 last season. They did so. I mean, listen, they had Burns, they had Eflin for a stretch, Grayson for a stretch, but it's just a pitching staff that just could not find cohesion. They were without Felix. They were without a couple of guys. They were with an offense that I think got off to a very promising start last year, but it just, like we said, they just couldn't tie their shoes down for months down the stretch of the season. We saw the nadir of that in the playoffs. Whereas I think 23, that was probably a bit of an inflated record. I'd probably have to go back and look at sort of who they were beating up on and how they got to, what was it, 103?
101.
Yeah, they won 101 that year. Like you said, like at the top of the show, that was probably a bit of an overstep. Like that might have been a bit too much of a number for whatever reasons they were. Whereas I think they were probably better than their record last year. I think water is going to find its level a little bit. You mentioned the tough division. That's kind of where, like, I actually am pretty bullish on this team. I think it's going to be a pretty just consistent, like, good-looking team throughout the year. But it's just going to be tough for them to get over 93 or 94. I expect Boston to be much improved. I do think they're going to be right there at the end with the Yankees. And we'll kind of get into our prediction as far as how all that's going to shake out. I think Toronto is going to be improved. The Rays are a pesky out every single time. It's just, I think it's going to be a tough division. And so I think 93 is kind of going to be, like I said, water finding its level. Offense is going to be more consistent. Pitching, maybe not great top level as far as talent goes, but I think there's depth there. And they've got some experience now, man. They've got some battle scars, and I think they're going to use that to weather some of these tougher stretches of the season, which really, when you look at it, like this opening of the season maybe projects to be that, where you're not going to have Gunnar to start. You're not going to have Grayson for a couple of months. Gibson's not going to be in the mix yet. Bradish is going to be out for a while. Kittredge is not going to be in the mix for a long time. It might project a little bit opposite of last season, where last season they got off to a hot start and it was built with duct tape and bubble gum. And the plane kind of came out of the air there, unfortunately. So yeah, maybe an inverse of that, where it's going to start out a bit of a struggle, but they'll find their footing and they'll come on down the stretch. Yeah,
I think you're right. And again, maybe they stumble out of the gate. They rarely do that. I feel like even the years that they're bad, like I feel like they kind of
remember. Was it 2016? One of the big Trumbo years, they were like 10-0, like to start the year,
something like that. Yeah, I forget what year it was, but yeah, I do recall.
Yeah, I think they were a wild card that year. So it's like, it's not about how you start, it's how you finish, especially in baseball. So we're pretty much in lockstep as far as our record predictions. We'll kind of get into what we expect from them now, where it's the big question, the almighty question, the one they've been trying to answer now for a decade. Do they make the playoffs, and how far do they go? What do you got?
I do think they make the playoffs. Again, I don't know if I don't know enough to say wild card or division. Again, either one, it's not going to surprise me. But yeah, I think they make it. I think they at least win a playoff series. I think they win one. Again, I think the rest of the league is going to be better too. I think the Tigers are good. I put a bet on the Royals to win their division. So yeah, I think there's going to be some other teams out there, but I think this team, when they get to October, this is a team now that I don't think they give a shit about the regular season. I think they're one of those. Let's fast forward to October. Get me there. I don't care.
It's not always fun.
That's true. That's very true. But I think they're just going to be like, let us win one more game than we need to get in the playoffs, and let's just go from there, because they know that nothing else matters now. But I think they're going to have a much different mentality going into the playoffs, and just kind of, if they can stay healthy, that's all that it takes, is just staying healthy. So yes, I do think they make the playoffs. I'll say ALCS appearance.
I had the same thing. I had them as a wild card. I probably didn't consider Cole's injury enough. I just don't know what his status is going to be. So I probably should have factored that in a little bit more. But I mean, you talk about having battle scars. You talk about like being ready for these moments. The Yankees kind of just are that. They've been that team in the AL East, or they certainly were last season. And I don't know, like losing Soto, that's definitely going to hurt them. But Judge is going to hit another 50 homers. And I don't know, I think Fried is going to be a big pickup for them. So overall, I think it would be very close. I think I wrote down that maybe they'll like lose the division by like 2 games, which again, that's what happened last year. Like it was very close, and a couple of things break right. The Orioles maybe have 1 less injury, and I don't know, maybe you win the division on like a tiebreaker. Like
I mean, they only lost the division. I think it was 3 games. So, it's not like, Judge had another incredible year. They had Juan Soto. They had basically a half a year of Garrett Cole. And I mean, again, they were the Orioles. It's basically one series, they kind of coughed up a series, and that's all it was. So it's, they were right there with them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I think we both got in lockstep there. It's kind of, it's such a crapshoot, like predicting regular season, but that's like much easier to do than like, will they make the playoffs, and like, will they win a series? There's just no way to tell. But I don't know. I just think they're kind of ready to get this monkey off their back. Shout out to Steve Young. Get out there with a healthy and right of mind Adley Rutschman, and Gunnar's obviously been there. He knows the frustrations. Hopefully you'll have a relatively healthy pitching staff. I think Holiday, Kerstad, some of these guys taking a step up. Colton, he had a rough moment, in the playoffs, and it's just like these guys, they've been there. I feel like they're ready to win a playoff series. And if they win one, I could certainly see them winning 2, but I don't necessarily have them as a legit World Series contender. So yeah, that's where we're both at on that. Like I said, kind of a crapshoot with predicting playoffs, but that's where we are. Team MVP. I'll start on this one. I'm just going chalk. I'm going to go with Gunnar. I think he actually improves on his 37 home runs from last year. Hopefully he's healthy and kind of into the lineup and ready to go right away, because he's going to need to be if he is going to improve on that total. But yeah, man, I just think like some of the weird like defensive miscues we saw last year at times, and kind of some of the slower stretches. I just think he's going to turn into a more complete player. I wrote down have an OPS in the 9s by the end of the year. Like I just feel like this is like, we feel like we've already seen everything from him. I feel like we're going to see even another gear from him, which should be very exciting to people. And yeah, it excites me, and I think it's very much within possibility. I remember him talking to, was it Mookie's podcast that he went on when he was out in LA last year, and Mookie was like, "You've got all the tools, like you've got all the skills, you've got the right mindset. It's time to start acting that way and start believing that about yourself. And once you do that, like you'll be in that position." And he's now been in MLB for several years, and he's been
his fourth season in the bigs.
Yeah,
it's the fourth year that he's going to play. That's crazy. That's nuts to think about.
Yeah, and he's still in his mid-20s. I mean, like he's still young enough, and he's entering his physical prime, and I think hopefully his mental prime too. And I think he's just going to put it all together. So yeah, it's chalk, but it's Gunnar for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anyone can argue that. I'm going to say Adley. Me and Carol here are on the same page. I think Adley gets back to that first half, 2023 Adley, and I think he's just going to be a hitting machine. I think it's going to be, I think he's going to bat right around 300. I think he'll be over 20 home runs. I hope so. I bet him to do that. I think his defense is going to be better. I think he's like, he got the Men in Black kind of just boop, erase it all. It's done. It's in the past. Again, you see him on the videos, you talk to him, you hear him in these interviews. He's like a completely different person this year. And again, he owned last year to the T. He was like, listen, I was bad. I know, I got to be better. And so again, he knows it. And I think he knows that, it's one of those, the pardon my take, Chris Jones is the best player, or Mahomes is the best player, but Chris Jones is the most important. I think it's like that. I think, when Adley is going, he's the straw that stirs the drink, and Gunnar is probably the best player. But I think if Adley is going and hitting 325 bombs, 90 RBIs, something like that, I think the team is really gonna hit a different level. So I'll take Adley. I'm buying all the stock, all of it.
I mean, I'm really interested on the defensive side of it for it too. Is his arm looking a little less noodly? Is he going to be gunning guys down? Is he going to be, framing up pitches a little bit better for a staff that's going to need his help, frankly? I'm all in on that too. I don't know exactly the extent to which, we wrote this down for kind of our tidbit thoughts in the end. We can just kind of get into it now. You're predicting him as team MVP, which obviously would be an amazing turnaround. But just for to get back to just regular Adley Rutschman, what would constitute that? What's he slashing? How many homers? What's the defense looking like?
I don't know. It's tough because again, obviously we all know about him throwing guys out last year, and that was a big point of contention. And there was all that talk. But no, I think again, offensively, I think if he's hitting 300 at the end of the year, he's at 300, and 825 OPS, something like that, 25 bombs, 90. You got to figure what's he going to bat second, maybe. I think second or third, somewhere in that. You're going to see him in the first inning. If he's at 90 RBIs, then he's I think it's going to mean it obviously means the bottom of the lineup's getting on and it's turning over and all that. But yeah, I think if he's hitting 300, if his OPS is 825 and up, I think it's going to be, it's all good signs. And again, the defense is strange because again, you can't really put a number on if he saves this many strikes or this and that, but
it's just a lot of eye test stuff with him with the defense. One thing, and then we've talked about it with Spenny recently. I just don't want to see him with a knee in the dirt and his back contorted and the bat way behind him, trying to swing out of his shoes every time. Just put the bat on the ball, be a more consistent hitter. Be a guy that the rest of the team can rally around.
And that's what you were seeing in spring training. He was going the other way. Again, we saw him go the other way against Skeens, I think twice. And again, he's making good contact, and we're seeing some of not the knee in the dirt, but he's hitting it and he's doing the fade back thing. And, we're seeing that. So yeah. I think when that happens, it's good stuff follows. So yeah, I'm with you. None of the body language was off last year. Everything seemed broken. Everything was kind of out of sorts. And maybe he just needed a good bat to the bat rack and kind of to kind of reset him. So
yeah, or just take a 6-month vacation. I feel like, if I could have that, I'd probably come back a new man too. So
go down to Florida for 3 weeks and just
chill out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I could probably do some work, but
not really.
Not really. My boss would would not love that. Home run leader and how many? Who do you got and how many?
I mean, this is a toss up for me. I'm in between. I'll say it. I'll say Mountie. I think Mountie finds the fountain of youth. Again, bringing the wall in. I think that I think he's going to be again over 30, at least 25. I thought he was going to have a big year last year, but I think pencil me in for Mountie. I think he's back. I think he's going to be pumped up. You know, he's ready for the season. He's wearing the fighting, which, by the way,
oh God,
if you need to get a fighting, they got him on Amazon. So I'm riding with the boys. But yeah, I think he has a really good year.
I love Ryan, but that's such a, like, whenever like he gets looped into these things, it's the Steve Buscemi, how do you do fellow kids thing a little bit, which is great.
Colton, when we saw them at the practice, Colton had on a shark tooth necklace and the fighting, and Ryan didn't have that on, and he said he didn't want to slice his trachea if he had to dive for a ball. So at least
he gets looped in. He's always very like, oh, these crazy kids, what do they got going on? Then he always finds his way looped into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's still young at heart. You can just tell he's got a young eyes, you know.
Yeah, he's there. He's young. He's a youngster, but yeah, I'm going Mountie for home run leader.
And what was your total?
We'll say 34.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, like I alluded to, I got Gunnar. I said 40, breaks the 40 barrier.
I would like that.
Yeah, I think for some of the hot takes that we'll get to at the end, I think who's your Anthony Santander replacement? Is it O'Neill? Is it Heston Kjerstad? Is Mountcastle going to? It's like, guess what? You had a guy that hit 37 last year and didn't, look 100% all the way through. I know he's hurt to start the year, like I said, but it really wouldn't shock me if this is just like a absolute like nuclear season from Gunnar.
Yeah. Again, what is he, 23? Like, yeah, he's the guy crushed his over under. He beat his over under home run by the All-Star break. So that just shows you
that might be influencing me a little bit, because like the expectations were so low last year, relative to, the betting outlets. And then he just, like you said, he crushed it. So I don't know, maybe I'm a little bullish, but I'd rather be bullish on a guy like that. Wins leader among the starting pitching staff. Who do you have here? I feel like this is one that we'll probably be in lockstep on.
I'm going Eflin. I think Eflin is going to have a really good year. Again, I talked about it last night with the Pigtown guys, but he seemed so bought in. And again, I was like, you could have given me 20 guesses on who the other guy in that spring training house was, with Gunnar and Adley and Westy and Mountie and Kalzer. And it's like, oh yeah, it's Zach Eflin. They're just hanging out with them. And obviously, again, him and Mountie went to high school together. I think Eflin was a senior when Mountie was a freshman, so they go back a little bit. But yeah, I think he seems fully bought in and ready to go, and I think he's gonna have a really good year, and I think he's really gonna kind of. I think he knows the opportunity again. Like, hey, Grayson's gonna be out for X amount of time. You had Corbin last year; he's gone. You're the guy now. I'm sure that they've talked to him and they're letting him know, listen, you're the big dog. We're gonna ride. We're gonna ride with you all the way to the end. So I said it last night. I would love an extension for him, like a 3 or 4 year deal. I think that would be really cool. And again, kind of like obviously he's not an ace. He's not gonna win a Cy Young or anything like that. I think he's a damn good pitcher. So I don't know if it's 13. Again, the win stats kind of throw it out the window. It doesn't really matter. But I don't 14, 15, 16 wins, something like that. So
yeah, I said 14. He's kind of just your horse by default right now. I mean, Grayson probably should have been that, but you mentioned the injury. We'll see A, when he comes back, and B, what he looks like when he comes back, because that's not a guarantee that he's going to be great right out of the gate either. So yeah, man, it's just Eflin right now. He is the dude. I mean, we had the comment earlier about the Orioles having the oldest, starting rotation. That's probably true with Charlie Morton in his 40s, and Tomoyuki is 35, and just, some older guys here. Dean is probably right around Eflin's age, maybe a little younger even, but it's just funny to me thinking about all these old guys, and then little Kate Povich there, just kind of, in the mix, just sort of like the meme of the like old Ninja Turtles eating the young Ninja Turtles, and then the other way around. Maybe it'll turn into something like that, but yeah. Yeah, I went with Eflin too. I said 14. I just put a number out there. I figured that's pretty, pretty baseline about where he should get. I mean, it could maybe even be more than that. Who knows? Hopefully he stays healthy for the full year. He had some issues last season with that. So yeah, I mean, if he stays in the mix, stays healthy, I think 14 is a very realistic number. You could maybe even go over it. But overall, I don't even know how much I expect wins to necessarily matter, because it's weird how they're calculated anyway. And are you going to get, bullpen games? And like I mentioned with Suarez being a long reliever, we'll see how long that lasts. But to start things out, yeah, I don't know. I think Zach Eflin, I'm all the way bought in too, man. This is going back to last season when I was just throwing out, extend this guy, extend Corbin Burns. And I don't know, realistically, Eflin is a guy that you probably could do that with right now. And it would be good for both sides.
Yeah. I mean, he just had his fourth kid under 3. They don't want to move again. You kidding me?
Yeah.
He's probably like, yeah, let's get something done. I kind of just want to find a house and not have to move, a bunch of play.
Right. And it's like playing in Tampa Bay. Yeah. Playing in Tampa Bay for all those years. You got that thought of are we going to move looming over your head, to begin with? So, maybe it'd be nice to just settle down in a place. And obviously I'm speaking for him, and his agent will have other thoughts, but yeah, I don't know. I'm all the way in on Zach Eflin. I think he was awesome last season, and I think that'll continue this year. Breakout player. Who do you got that's going to break out in 2025?
This is kind of tough because, again, there's no this guy's an under the radar guy. Breakout. I mean, again, I know I came up with this part of the questions too.
I was going to say you didn't have any time to prepare or anything.
I guess I think Heston. Again, I've been pretty low on Heston for the last couple of years. I volunteered to drive him to the airport several times if they were going to trade him.
And then he hit the steak quote, and you're like, fucking
hitting the steak quote was great.
So by the way, great job on the chill the other day where he looked back on that. I think unrelated question, he just kind of brought it up, and it was yeah, that was one of the crazier things that has ever been said by a human being. And I was good on you, Heston. That's
and the editing team, I think it was Greg who did that. It was a great edit where it was it had the and it brought him back. That was it, everything about that was great. That was very, very, I kept meaning to send that to you and I never did. But I was hoping that you saw it. I knew you would see it eventually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, damn, a good answer just popped up in the chat, but my
favorite is when, not to toot my own horn, but when I cut the Joker music from The Dark Knight over him saying
that. I need to find that clip again and retweet that. We'll send that one out. But yeah, I think, I think Heston, again, I think he gets the at-bats now. Again, that's been the biggest issue is where do we get the at-bats from? And Santander was playing every day and there was really nowhere to put him. Now there's a place to put him. This is his, they're giving him every opportunity in the world to break out. So if it doesn't happen now, it's I don't know if it'll ever happen, but he has the, he's going to get the at-bats. He's either a DH or in right field when O'Neill is, sitting or they're platooning him or whatever, but and hopefully he can stay healthy. And again, none of these injuries have been to his, it's not like he's a hurt guy. He's always his hamstring. It's never soft muscle, soft tissue injury. He's like
the bad luck Brian. It just comes
literally, but yeah, he's bad luck Heston. I got myocarditis and then I can't lived in a hotel for a year. Clay Holmes tried to put 98 through his ear hole. None of that stuff is his fault. So yeah, I got big hopes for Heston this year. And again, it's kind of this is kind of it, kind of have to get something going. But yeah, again, he's got all the power in the world. So I would love to see him put that into effect and find Utah Street. So at least once this year, I think he will.
Yeah, I think he will too. Speaking of finding Utah Street, my breakout player, he actually had a plaque memorializing him hitting Utah Street in his first ever home run. Of course, that is our guy, Little Jackie, Jackson Holiday. Man, just what a weird season last year was, right? All the pressure, all the stuff that was going on at the beginning of the season with him looking amazing in spring training, not making the ball club, eventually making the ball club in a weird kind of situation where he's
10 games in or 10 days, something like that.
Maybe not even that. Yeah, he's on a flight up to Boston and he's making his debut there. And you've got Matt Holliday in the mix making these comments, and it's just a whirlwind, and he's just kind of unable to keep up with it. Understandable for a guy who was 20 years old at the time. And, only hits 5 home runs, and it was kind of few and far between, but he flashed a little bit. And obviously we know the talent's all there with him. It's just about growing into yourself physically as a 21-year-old and growing into your mind and your body and your spirit, and just like, am I ready to be an MLB player right now? And I think the answer is yes with him. And I think all the potential is there to be a great one. And I think at the very least, he'll be a pretty good one this season. Give me somewhere between like 16 to 18 homers with him. I think he's going to run the bases well. He's going to be starting at shortstop in Gunnar's absence. I think that's, that shows a lot of trust in him to move over to shortstop there, to play there for about a week and a half, whatever that's going to be. Show some versatility with the glove. Really excited for little Jackie this season. Hope he steps it up. I'll be rooting for him. Just a really, like, for a kid his age, well thought out, just considered guy. Seems very kind of down to earth, in touch overall. Kind of a switched on kind of kid. And I don't know, man, I'll be rooting like hell for him. And I think I think this is the year where, I wouldn't say it all comes together, but it's really going to start to come together for him in a big way. So excited for him.
I think you're absolutely right. I think, again, my biggest takeaway just from this offseason was he's much bigger than last year. Again, we saw him at the Caravan, he does not look like he did last year. When we did the event with him at Jimmy's, he kind of looked like a bobblehead, and like you said, growing into his body. Saw him at the Caravan, and that's a full-grown man. That is a guy who gained 20 pounds eating straight-up ground beef. He's a big dude. And also, my biggest takeaway from him was, if you look at the comments, if you hear the comments and you read, you see on his Instagram yesterday, he's eating donuts in a video for Levy Foods. Like, he seems like he has completely, again, I'd say it again, let his hair down. And he's just, everything last year, every comment seemed so like, almost like he was afraid. And again, he was in front of the cameras. He's 20 years old. He's playing, it's the worst baseball he's ever played in his life. And again, after every game, he's got a camera in his face, and they're asking him questions, and they're, what's wrong?
It's like, it's not even just like the capital TM, the media. It's all the shit on social media, all the fans, like pressure, us included. We were pressuring and pressuring. Got to get this kid up. He's ready. It's like, and it got fast tracked to a point that it didn't need to be. And it made me think a little bit. I was thinking about Kobe Mayo's comments that he made when he didn't make the club. And in a moment of frustration, I think he said something that he didn't phrase maybe properly. I think he even admitted to that. He was like, I kind of wish I had said this differently. Like, obviously I'm frustrated, but I just don't think, it was exactly like worded the way that he wanted to, which is going to happen when you get a microphone put in your face after something frustrating happens.
10 minutes after you're told, like, hey, you're not going to make the big league club. Yeah, they stick a mic in his face, and he says something that again, I didn't think it was the worst thing in the world, but he probably wishes that he was a little more, I guess, professional about it. I didn't have any issues with it though. But
no, yeah. And it makes me think about the whirlwind of that for Kobe Mayo, who was a 3rd-round pick and has been waiting for a while. And, obviously had an unsuccessful stint to start out last year, had an up and down spring training this year. Then think about it with Jackson Holiday last year, where every single sign pointed to him needing to be on that opening day roster, not making it. Then all of a sudden you have the whiplash of flying up to Boston. And it's this big thing where national sports outlets are talking about the Orioles in this way because it's Matt Holiday's kid. Like, it's just a perfect storm of stuff just came together to make that I wouldn't say impossible, but difficult situation for him to deal with. And I think that probably manifested itself in his play a little bit to start the year. Obviously, you could probably also argue he wasn't physically ready yet either. And it just like, it just wasn't normal. Nothing about it was normal. Nothing about it was easy. Nothing. You talk about being low profile for the team. This is going to be a little bit more low profile of a start for him. And I think it's going to, it's going to manifest itself very well this time around.
Yeah, I think you're right. And again, I keep going back to his comments and everything. He seems like he just, like, in the off season, like, and he just took a deep breath. And again, he's like, the comments in spring training, he was funny and he's joking around. Like, Basayo hits that home run onto the other field, and they asked him about it, and he goes, I don't know if they have the metrics on it, but if they do, it's wrong. And then, because he's like, that ball was killed. And they said it was 4 or 5. And immediately he was like, yeah, that's not right at all. Like, he's joking with them and he's having fun. And again, that just shows to me that he's comfortable and that he's like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, this, it's going to be all right. Like, because again, he was stressed out last year. Like you said, every media outlet and us included, had cameras in his face, and we're like, oh, he's 0 for 10 now. Oh, he's 0 for 11. Oh, he's on 4 games, no hits. Now he's on 5 games, no hit. It was like, it was a watch party.
It was an event. It was an event. Every event was an event.
Yep. And again, every time he didn't get hit, it's like, oh, there we go. Jackson Holiday now 0 for 7. Now he's over. It was like the Texas A&M, like ball 12, ball 13, ball 14. It got to a point where, again, kid's 20 years old. Like it is too much for him. So
in a different way, it's kind of almost like what was going on with Chris Davis, right? Where it's like, if people just like, and obviously like we're going to talk about it, it's impossible not to talk about, but if people just kind of didn't pay attention for a little while, it probably like, it would be easier to just get back on track, but not the way the world works.
No, but again, I'm with you. So yeah, I'm very excited for Jackson this year. Again, I've been trying to bet his over on stolen bases. I wanted to bet like 40, and they just don't have him listed. So
I don't think you're allowed to bet on children. So
he's 21.
Right.
21.
I am 12. All right, so that's our breakout players. Last sort of official one we've got here. Hot takes. I know you're a big hot take artist. I'm sure if I pulled up a Grok AI prompt on you, it would talk all about your baseball hot takes. What's your hot take for the 2025 Orioles?
Last night I said my hot take was going to be that Jackson makes the All-Star team. But I'll pivot on that. I think, again, I talked about it earlier. I think this team is going to be a top 2 or 3 offense in baseball. I think they're going to crush the ball. Again, even with Gunnar out for, I don't know, a week, 10 days, whatever it has to be. I think they are going to absolutely mash. I think balls are going to be flying out everywhere. It's going to be something, but I think they're going to be big time. Offensive numbers, home run numbers. I think they're going to score a ton of runs. I think they still finished like 4th in runs last year. Even like it may have been 4th in the second half, because all we did was talk about last year being like, talking about how the offense fell apart in the second half. I want to say they finished like 4th in runs scored in the second half or something, but I think they are consistently, I think everyone takes a step up. I think you're going to see better hitting with runners in scoring position. And we just saw the stat. It just came out last week that, I don't know how this kind of went under the radar. They grounded into the lowest amount of double plays that's ever happened in baseball in a season. It was like 71. Which is, again, it's like, and somebody, I think it was Ryan Blake, who was like, yeah, they didn't ground into double plays because they were either striking up or popping out to second with a guy on first or whatever. But
that's an own goal if you're going to try and put that out there and to get some kind of positive feedback on that. Good luck to you, my friend, whoever you are. So I saw that on Reddit, and let me tell you, there was a wave of just, shooting that down and memes and jokes, all of which very funny.
That's like, I remember it being like, oh, wow, like, yeah, that's crazy. Chris Davis, like one year, Chris Davis had ground in like 3 double plays, and someone was like, yeah, it's because he doesn't fucking make contact. And I was like, oh, that makes sense too. So, but yeah, again, I think they mash. I think it's the Baltimore Bombers, the summer of Birdland bombs. What is it? Birdland Power Co. All that stuff. I think it's back. So I'm very excited for this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're right. I'd also like a little bit of POFO mixed in there. Let's put the ball on the ground. Let's manufacture some offense. I want to see some more of that too.
Listen, nobody loves a sack fly more than me. Maybe Brian, maybe Banks. As a former player,
as a former player who's just really in touch with the soul of the game. Nothing makes him more happy to see, the sack fly or guys hustling out a question.
A good first to third. Oh, that really gets him going.
Yeah, there's just like I've seen him physically levitating after some of these more mundane aspects of the game because he's just kind of in touch with it on a higher level than any of us. But
yeah, absolutely. So that's my hot take. The boys.
Mine's pretty much the exact same as yours. I just sort of framed it in the different way where I will say very much in quotes. It wasn't quote the right decision to let Anthony Santander walk, but I think with the offensive improvements, I think it will in time come to be an understandable one. I think some of these guys that they're betting on in Heston, I mean, we haven't even mentioned production that they'll be seeing. I don't think we've mentioned Jordan Westberg's name yet. I mean, the guy missed a lot of time last year. He'll get back in the mix. Cowser was very productive last season. I know he had his down stretches, but that was pretty much a breakout season for him. Holiday, I'm expecting big things out of. We barely talked about Tyler O'Neill. That guy's going to mash. I mean, just look at those pipes. So, yeah, I mean, just overall, like, it's not like a Billy Bean recreated in the aggregate thing. Like, they're still going to miss Tony to an extent, I think. But overall, like, I don't know if they're going to miss a beat in their overall offensive kind of way they operate.
I think they'll be able to make up those home runs. And, again, we talked about that we talked about that last night being like, if Heston hits 12 and Tony and O'Neill hits 30, boom, there's your Santander production right there. And again, those are going to be your guys in right field. But again, they're going to be able to find the home runs somewhere. So I'm right there with you. I think that, again, I love Tony. I think that was my favorite Meet the Birds event last year. I just don't think that contract is going to age well for Toronto. Again, a 230 hitter who openly talks about how he can't hit in the cold. And I know they play in a dome, but Toronto it's a little chilly early on, but
he's gonna look swaggy in the turtleneck. So I'll say that.
Yeah. He'll look good. He looks weird in the blue, but yeah, I don't think they'll really miss Santander, at all.
Absolutely. All right. I mean, I wrote down some of these quick hitters here. We pretty much answered all of them. I mean, just before we get out of here, just general kind of final thoughts here. What are we expecting from some of these guys? I wrote down about the elder statesmen in particular. I mean, didn't talk a lot about Mountie, did not talk a lot about Cedric Mullins, Ryan O'Hearn, guys that have been, mentioned on the trade block in the last couple of years. And, you talk about all this young talent coming up there. It's almost in an interesting spot now where there's actually not a whole lot of young talent, at least waiting and ready to go. Like Basayo, maybe he comes up this year at some point, but probably not. Bradfield, probably not this year. Mayo will come up at some point, but is he going to be, taking a bunch of, at bats from some of these guys? I'm not so sure about that. So I don't know, man. Just kind of that back half of the roster. How are we feeling about the lineup specifically, really?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's weird because, again, there's no real roster battles. The only real roster battles was like the bullpen, and then it's like, who is going to play shortstop? Is it going to be Mateo? Is it going to be Livan Soto? Is it, who gets that spot while Gunner's out on the roster? Because, like you said, Jackson's going to play short. But it's going to be an interesting year. I think this team's depth is the best that it's been in a long, long time. I think the bench is going to be lethal. Again, you're either going to have like O'Hearn, you're going to have Mountie. You're going to have, Ramon coming off the bench. There's no real way that you're going to be able to attack them late in the game by like, if we put in a lefty, if you got Mountie on the bench, okay, perfect. You want Mountie to crush against lefties. And then it's like, you bring in some righty reliever. Guess what? Ryan O'Hearn's right there and he's going to send one, into Boog. So, I am excited about the bench and the kind of the late inning. I think they're going to be able to play chess a lot better than they had before. Again, when it's like, who's going to be your pinch hitter against lefties? It's Ryan McKenna. Like, oh shit, okay, never mind. Stuff like that. But I don't know. I think they're a much their depth is there. And yeah, you talked about Cedric. I think it's going to be interesting because he's he's going to be, there's a contract here. I think we're going to kind of going through what Adam and Cedric went through with Enrique and Cedric now, as Cedric is essentially Adam in that point of view where he kind of sees the writing on the wall, I'm sure. And that I would love for him to channel that into a chip on his shoulder and be like, hey, you know what? You guys don't want me and that's perfectly fine. I know you got my replacement. Guess what? I'm going to ball out and because I'm playing for a contract somewhere else next year. So,
a la a certain player last year.
Yeah, exactly. Have a career year. I would love that. I would love Cedric to go get paid. Again, I know Bradfield is MLB ready, his glove. I know there were scouts and there were teams who were putting packages together to get him. And obviously nothing came from that. I think it was the Padres. One of the Padres scouts said this guy would have won an MLB Gold Glove last year if he was playing. So if he could put bat on ball, he's going to steal 70 bases. He can. He just has that speed. He talked about getting faster, which is like crazy. It's stupid that somebody could be that fast. So that's another thing. We didn't talk about that. I think we've talked about it earlier. I think they're going to steal a ton of bags. I think they are going to run. I think Heston needs to steal. I think Colton needs 20 bags. I think Mountie needs 10. I think Gunnar needs 30. I think Jackson needs 30. Mullins, I think Mullins should be stealing every time. Jorge too. I think they are going to run. And Hyde said it, and they showed that a little bit in spring. But, we've seen it before against the Orioles. Chaos on the base paths leads to runs, and anything can happen when you got fast guys up there. So they've got a bunch of speed, and I think they're going to use it this year. So.
Absolutely. All right, pal. Running on an hour and a half. Anything else before we close this bad boy out?
I'm excited for the season. Again, it's nice to kind of go in with no real expectations. And again, the fans are going to fan how they want. I think just have fun with this team, and you can't live and breathe with every pitch. It's not a football season. We've talked about it before.
Spen, are you listening?
Yeah, Spen. But no, again, I mean, have fun with this team. Again, this is it's very rare that, again, we get these kind of teams and we have them here with multiple faces of a franchise. And, I don't know, the guys they seem rejuvenated. They seem excited. Again, I think they know what's right there in front of them, a la Aaron Boone, but go have fun, watch them, root them on. If you think they suck and you don't want to watch them, don't watch them. I don't know what to tell you. Go read a book. Knitting is a perfectly good hobby. Plenty of other stuff you can do, but I'm ready to get out there and have some fun and drink a couple drinks with some of my friends early on Monday morning and cheers to another 162. So
we'll both be out there. I think we're gonna have to start coordinating that, because I only got a solo ticket I got a standing room only solo ticket. I thought maybe I'd pull a Brian and I'd go keep score and kind of just bask in the glory of all that is opening day baseball, the smell of the fresh cut grass and the sprinklers and the crack of the bat. I know he's very soulful about that kind of stuff, so I thought I'd try it for myself.
He is. Yeah. Again, I'll be out there, so again, let's we'll definitely meet up on Monday and let's enjoy opening day on Thursday. I'm sure they're pretty damn good on opening day too. But how
about a little Adley Rutschman 5-hit performance? Do that again. Run that back on opening day.
Him homering on the first swing on opening day was so sick. That was so goddamn cool.
Fucking incredible. And then 5 hits. I mean, God damn it! If he could do something even close to that again, and just assuage all of our concerns about him on the first game, that would be great.
That would be very fun. That would be a good time. So, again, let's just have some fun and again, baseball. It feels like last week I was sitting here wallowing in my sorrows after turning the game off after Colton broke his hand in the playoffs, because I didn't watch the rest of the game. I was like, I'm done with this. I think I know how this goes. And you blink and here we are. So that and go Terps and stay Kevin Willard. So
absolutely. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you might miss it.
Sure.
Nothing.
Good movie.
Yeah. Okay. So you do know.
Oh, I know. I know what it. Yeah, I know what it is. I haven't seen it in years. It's probably been 15 years since I've seen that, but
it holds up on rewatch. It's still good.
I'm sure. What was the last movie he was in? Matthew Broderick.
I don't know if
Inspector Gadget.
He's had kind of a weird life. He
killed those people, right?
Yeah. So that might have hindered some things. I want to say he's been in some stuff. Actually, let me look this up.
Turning in a lights, camera, bar stool here.
Yeah. Trope Allins is just,
smock and tweet.
Yeah, the smock and tweet. Yeah, I mean, not seeing a lot of recent stuff on here. Let me see if I can find.
He's relaxing. So he's not letting life move too fast for him.
Yeah, B movie is kind of the last big one that I'm seeing. Wonderful.
What a sentence! That is a way to end it.
It was a big movie. I don't know if it was well received. Yeah, he was in Glory. That's a good movie.
The college basketball one?
No, it's a Civil War movie actually.
Oh, what's the Glory Road?
Glory Road, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Blue Chips on the rewatchables. I got to go check that out. Big Blue Chips guy.
Never seen it.
Okay, that's you would actually like it. Okay, well, as Foul Ball Talk says here in the comments, 2 more sleeps. Like we said, we'll see you guys out there. Thank you for hanging with us here. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to us here on the YouTube page. Helps us out a lot. Like all our videos, comment on all of them to help the algorithm get us out there to other people. Spread us around by word of mouth. Get the good word out to your friends. If you liked what you heard, also follow us on social media at the X52 Podcast on X, at X52 Podcast on Instagram. I am at Jake Luke. That's LOUQUE. Eric at EDITTI22. Brian at Barstool Banks. Taylor at Taylor Smythe 10. Spenny at Ravens 4 Dummies. That is the number 4 in the middle there. Shout out to Jimmy's Famous Seafood one last time. Be sure to get yourself some tailgate tickets for Monday if you will be attending opening day. Get yourself that PTO booked if you still can. Get those tickets starting at $60. You can also do Meet the Birds if you're so inclined. Hang out with Eric and Brady Anderson on Friday night, 7 p.m. at Jimmy's. You can get tickets at jimmysfamousseafood.com. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.
Bye-bye.
Arrivederci.